Okay. So, just to ground ourselves in this, you want me to go through this or would you like to?
I'm struggling with the headphones and not if I'm speaking,
Okay,
so I could be just having an issue here, but
gotcha.
I'm not hearing anything through the headset. Are you all hearing through the headset?
Yeah, but it's delayed, which is fine.
Okay. I can speak up there.
Go for it.
That'll work. Hello, everyone. So, a few weeks ago, JH and Carlos and Christian and I met to talk about the retreat. Three of you have been through at least a few retreats, some more than others. Emily and Aaron, this is your first time. The purpose statement is really just to share how a retreat is a little bit different than a normal business meeting, right? So we're actually not going to be going through this, the kind of agenda that you normally do for a meeting. This is more of a time to focus on some connections, get updates and background on your role, and then just kind of build relationship with each other and obviously for all of us as a group. And when we met with Carlos and JH, these were some of the outcomes that they really wanted to make sure result from your time together this evening. So one is just to get to know each other a little bit and how you communicate, what your interests are, what brought you to the HRC. So that everyone at the end of this meeting will have maybe a little bit of a better understanding about your role in the context of the human rights ordinance. And have an opportunity to hear a little bit more about how discrimination claims and failure to pay wage claims go through the city, as that's another part of the ordinance that staff work on. And then we wanted to get your thoughts about how we can make the work plan document, the spreadsheet that Ingrid previously and now Christian and I have been helping to maintain, really useful so that you can yourselves can use this as your tool to help your work. And JH and Carlos were just sharing that it's a little challenging to do that, to kind of get access to the document and be able to use it. So we just want to have some conversation among you and some suggestions or guidance for Christian and I so we can support you in your role. Does that, JH and Carlos, reflect what we discussed? Is there anything that was missing that you wanted to bring up?
Creo que sí, todo está bien.
Good. Okay. And for everyone, does it sound good? All right. So then for the meeting intentions, just the things we want to keep in mind for all of the times that we gather together, but specifically for a retreat like this, where there's a little bit more kind of interaction, a little bit less formal. To be present, obviously we all have lives that are outside of this room. So if you get pulled away or you need to, use the restroom, get some more water, please do what you need to do to tend to your own needs. But when we're in this space, really try to be available and present to listen to each other. Step up and step back. If you're someone who tends to be a little bit more quiet or needs a moment to collect your thoughts, making time for people to do that. Some people, and I can be like this myself, just can't wait to say the next thing. So just maybe being quiet for a moment and giving people the time and space to step up. Really respecting each other's perspectives, which has always really been the case in this space. That's part of why you're here, to create and foster respect for all people and perspectives. So just want to bring that here. Because we will be talking about, Christian will be sharing some information about discrimination cases and claims. We never, as staff, share personal information about anyone's case. We never do that. We can't do that. And so we just ask for your understanding there as well. And to just not talk about any personal information, when it comes to that part in the agenda. And then accept non-closure is just, obviously, we can't solve every problem tonight. And so there may be some questions that you'll decide that you want to talk about later on at another meeting, or say, hey, there was that topic, let's pick that up later. We don't have time to get to it tonight, because again, we want to respect your all's time this evening. So we may not be able to get to everything, but for those issues, we'll just make note and then help you kind of pick up those conversations later on. That sound good? Is there anything else that you want to kind of call out as an intention for your time here this evening?
One thing I don't like there is refrain from sharing personal information about cases. I don't like that, because I think that's putting in news and people's mouth. And I don't think we discussed that in the meeting. I don't know.
Yep.
There you go.
Okay.
We're here. I think we're here for reality and truth. And I think the burn meetings, when people
Burn meetings, like when
I don't know if
people
that's
put
the
the
right
news.
English word.
I don't know if that's the right English word,
Yeah.
if I'm wrong.
Like when you
Yeah.
put
Like when you put
like a stop in somebody's mouth to talk about reality, I don't think that's fair as well. So I don't think anyone will share certain information
about privacy, or their life.
But
But
there's
there's
certain
certain
situation
situation when
when that case as an example.
it refers to that case,
If it is unfair.
if it is unfair,
Because I
think
as
as we all here know, it's like we all have a different experience, we all have a different reason why we joined the HRC.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm not sure what to.
Do you mind if I?
I think a lot of times when it's wireless, it doesn't work very well. Like the audio is terrible. You just can't hear.
Okay.
We can come closer, but then we have to carry this with us.
He's unmuted, so it should be. Taken, but it might
Are you hearing stuff through them? Hmm. Weird. Yeah.
Maybe if you stand.
Is that better?
Well, I don't. I
I
can
think
hear you.
it's wireless is always really bad. It always has problems in my experience. with doing this kind of
Should we try one of these?
Is there any way
Yeah.
to connect to one headset? I'm so sorry, JH. It's too.
No, you're good.
It's
You're
not
good.
working.
You just
It's
want to
not
make it work.
working.
It's like, I was only, yeah.
Oh, you-
Do I need to use it? Sometime here.
Yeah, so this would be for folks that are, we have some folks in the public who are observing.
Is this what? Okay.
Recording is progress. To interpretation in a different language. So I wonder if beyond mute on there.
Here, okay.
Can you hear him better?
Unmute it.
Can you say something? please?
Can you hear me better now? Okay, cool.
Yep, there we go.
Okay. So,
Okay, let me put it clear.
okay,
I just want to clarify. Okay. I think everyone has the right to share their experience. It doesn't have to be personal, like to go into the case. But if something hurts, everyone here has that right. And I don't want anyone to feel like you have a what do you call it? A muzzle. Yeah. It's like, to give you guys an example, it's different now. When I first got into HRC, the meeting we had, it was the first online meeting they ever had, where everyone was there, the city councils were there, the mayor, everybody. No, they didn't have a mayor back then. And the first person who talked back then was the city lawyer. And this is the crazy part of it. Though. When you get in, before you get in, you read what was there, why you joined, the reason. And the minute you get in, it's a different, the minute you walk into the door, there is a different set of rules. And the rules were different. You can't talk. You can't meet without, if it's 3 people or more at the meeting, okay? It's like, and this is what I feel like, instead of having that as I don't think I'm having a problem with it the way it says it, but what my problem with it is, if someone has a personal experience that hurt, they should be able to share it. And sometimes that's the reason they join the HRC. And I'm not saying they should go to details. I don't think that's that needs to be shared here. But if it's something that is not working, we should be able to say it's not working. And I don't think that says anything about personal or anything. And in fact, if it happens to any one of us, let's think about the public out there. So it's going to be even worse. So that's what I want to say. So thank you.
Yeah, I think, so what we mean by that is, if Roberto can step in if we need attorney clarification. Because we're talking about, Christian is going to be sharing information later on about, here's how many cases have come in for wage theft or discrimination. If somebody says, tell me about that case, I want to know about that. We're not going to share any client information.
I agree. That's good.
And we wouldn't want you to do that.
That's good. Yeah, that's what I'm saying too.
All of those, but sharing your own, I think the first exercise tonight is an icebreaker. We'll ask people to share about what interests you, what are your motivations? Like, that's personal information, but that's fine, right? There's nothing, you're not like clients working on a, kind of case in that standpoint. So it's really just noting that because we're providing some basic information that we won't be sharing any personal information about any of that, and we do not want you to do that either. It's just a privacy issue.
Okay.
So that's different than perspectives, which is what you're here to do.
Would it, JH, I'm not sure if this is what you're getting at, but if someone wanted to attend the meeting and speak about their specific case, would they be allowed to do that?
No.
Okay.
Because we're going to talk about the process. There is review. Review. And you would have to make. The fact. So if somebody wanted to address that, we would not be able to do that until such time as an appeal has been taken and it's in front of you as a group of
Recording in
judges.
progress.
Is that more what you're talking about?
Making an appeal? Is that okay? Thank you.
We'll talk all about that.
Okay. Is that what you're talking about, JH? If someone wants to speak about their own
No.
case? Okay.
Yeah, but I want what I meant is close to that, but I want to clarify. Let's say you feel mistreated by the process. You should be able to express that the process is unfair. I'm not saying you should go to specific cases where, do you understand, it's an example. Let's say you're a white girl, I'm a black man, where I had to find an fact of it to make sure that everything works. And then I have to trust Carlos' words over what you said to satisfy me. Where when I ask, if I ask, let's put it that way, what did you sign? How do I know that's what you said? You said, you can go to Carlos and what Carlos wrote, that's it. But me, I was forced to sign an affidavit. Do you understand? So there is no equity or equality. Does that make sense? That's what I'm saying. So if the equality is not there, so that process has to change. So that's all I'm saying. Yeah.
So I think when we get to that part of the agenda, again, Roberta will kind of spell out what that process is. You'll have some time to talk about the process. And this is the public meeting, right? So we're just want to bring up that we don't want to stop. We wouldn't like all to be talking about privacy issues for other people.
That's still fun.
So is that clarification helpful? We good to go?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Good discussion. How you communicate or how you take in information. So if I was sharing for that, I would say, my name is Elizabeth. I have been involved in social justice issues for many, many years before coming to the city, motivated by creating space for everyone in our community to be able to live and thrive. And I sometimes need to count to 10 in my head before speaking. Sometimes I can feel like I just want to jump in right away. So I try not to do that very often. And sometimes I will count to 10. And if I'm facilitating, I will often kind of see if somebody has not been speaking up very much to just say, Lauren, would you say more about that? Holly, would you like to share something? So we're in communication. That's really my way of just saying, I want to hear from you. I want to hear what's in your mind, your smart brain, your big heart. So that's how I would respond to that. Maybe just want to go around and kind of go this way. But you can jump in there as well.
Sure.
Want to start out?
Yeah, hi, my name's Aaron. Could you mute your thing there or turn the volume off? Maybe not. Okay. So my name's Aaron. I think what motivates me to serve on the HRC is I really care about inclusion, and I really love Boulder. And I want more people to feel included and feel like they can be a part of Boulder. And so that's something I've just been caring a lot about. And so that motivates me to join. Communication style in group meetings. I think I'm like, yeah, my default is like very much just like listener and like attuning to the group field. And like my lesson is usually to like, yeah, insert my voice a little more. Sometimes I can be so into listening that I like don't let myself speak. And so I like to, yeah, challenge myself to communicate more and not just listen. Preference for communication between meetings. I think my philosophy is like that our group coherence works better when each of us has individual coherence. And so like I really value building a relationship with all of you because I think it just means that as a group we can flow better. And so I love to communicate more between meetings and would love to meet and connect with each of you. So yeah, I'll be complete there.
Buenas tardes a todos. ¿Cuál fue mi motivación para estar en la comisión? Pues yo creo que más que nada fue mi comunidad, porque tuvimos al principio, tuvimos problemas y entonces ellos fueron los que me motivaron a tomar este tipo de decisiones y llegar hasta aquí a la comisión. Eh, pues mi modo de comunicación es abierta, es estar en grupo. También cuando gusten, recibo textos, llamadas. A veces no, en las mañanas no puedo contestar por mi trabajo, pero un mensaje y yo les regreso la llamada. Y pues estoy abierto a todo tipo de comunicación. Me gusta. Yo también me gusta escuchar mucho. A veces estoy más callado de lo que hablo. Gracias.
Using it as so nice to meet you all, JH and Beaker, in person. To see you two again. I joined HRC because I also went to CU Boulder, and I noticed the difference of experiences in white people and non-white people. And being with my non-white colleagues and their experiences, I wanted to be a part of making their lives better. And I know that from listening that that is an experience that's outside of CU and Boulder as well. I also think there are a lot of opportunities in Boulder. We have a really wealthy tax base. We have a lot of resources to use. So distributive justice is really exciting to me. How can we use these resources to better serve our entire community? And communication style in group meetings. I also don't like to fight space, so over Zoom I actually like how like the raise hand function, so I never want to interrupt another person or cut them short, so I like that. Sometimes I do that in person too. And I like asking questions more oftentimes than sharing my opinion. I think I have a lot to learn in this space. And preferences for communication between meetings. As you were talking about, JH, the Sunshine Law, I am used to so much collaboration, even asynchronously, that is hard for me not replying all to collaborate. So that's something that I'm getting used to in this space. But similar to Aaron, would love to develop more one-on-one relationships with you all, and make our collaborations work within the parameters that we have. And I'm just excited to be here with you all.
Can you hear me? Okay. My name is Jean, and I've been living in Boulder for 18 years. I'm from Haiti. I think I joined the HRC. It was right after I got divorced. I think I started dating and realized that abuse, molestation, and a few other things were part of the society. And then from the stories that I've heard, I felt like, okay, I have a daughter, I have to protect her, and I have to do something. And the other part of it was I was tired of being discriminated against, and I didn't know how to deal with it because coming from straight from Haiti to Boulder, like the blackest place to the whitest place, it was hard to know how to navigate it. I think over time, so I was looking for a way to be, how do I say, to help with some kind of change, make a difference. I'm not saying I could change the whole thing, but as long as I can do something good to make it better. So that's pretty much what I joined the HRC. And so far it's has not been good. So I don't know. That's it. I don't know if I have to say anything else. Thank you.
You want to say anything about your communication style?
My communication style is I'm direct. And I feel like this society it's kind of hard. There are a lot of hypocrisy here. And it's kind of hard to even communicate with people because sometimes when you say the truth, they think it's rude. And sometimes when you try to communicate, say, okay, this is reality, they try to return it to you to say, oh, you're sensitive. And I don't know. I feel like I'm still working on that to make sure that it's how to make it better, but you can always expect the truth from my mouth. So
Hi, everyone. I'm Roberto. I am an attorney. I am Boulder's deputy city attorney. I've only been to the city for since January. Before that, I spent 7 years on the bench. I was a state district court judge. Aside from this job, I'm also in the United States Air Force. And I have left kind of the role as an Air Force officer. I am a federal judge in the United States Air Force on the Air Force Court of Appeals in Washington, D.C. Some of my work is here, some of my work is in D.C. I am also an adjunct professor of law at both CU Boulder and the School of Law. I didn't have much in the way of motivation. This is just what I do. I'm assigned to help you, but I do love the mission. This is something that is great. When I moved to Colorado years ago, I spent my first 10 years opening up free legal clinics for the poor, for immigrants, for victims of domestic violence. So this type of work is very important in my mind. It's something that I value. My communication style in group meetings, English is not my first language. And there are lots of words that I cannot say in English. And so I have to use circumlocution. And so often I think about what I want to say before I say it. And I've also worked with interpreters for many. They've always appreciated that. But anyway, that's one thing about. Cool. Christian Phillips, Community Relations Senior Project Manager. My motivation for stepping into this role, I have a background in social human services. Most recently, before I came to the city, worked at Emergency Family Assistance Association, the Family Resource Center for Boulder. And then came into addiction prevention as well as engagement and restorative justice team within the city of Boulder. And noticed in my role providing the service that I was there to provide, the addiction prevention, mediation, or anything like that. But also, I had many clients come back with different questions for how to navigate the government system in general. And so my
So, I have to say thank you guys for being here, and it's good to meet you and you, because we have not met. I know we communicated a lot by email. Here's what I wanted to say to you guys. I think I'm probably the oldest member here, but I want to make sure you know that I'm like a 2-year-old still, like trying to walk, learn, talk at the same time. So when I first joined the HRC, it was I thought if you read the ordinance, it tells you that it's a body of its own, and there are a lot of initiative you can take and do, like, to make it better. And since I became the chair, I've talked to past chairs and I've talked to people even from when the HRC first became a thing. So the thing I've learned is that time has changed, like you all know, like you're grown, you're different interests, when you change, when time, progress. So the city got more people and there are more commissions and boards and committees. So the thing is, I don't know the problem, with the people that I've talked to. I just want to make sure I share that with you to understand, because I feel like it's been in the dark mostly because nobody talks about it. I don't know if it's the ordinance that needs to change, or if it is us that needs to create a situation where we can be more useful to the city. But I think what the HRC was when it was created is not the same. And I've been talking to a lot of people to see what has changed. But so far, what I can tell you is that there are a lot of work the HRC used to do that has been redirected. I don't know if that's the correct word to use, to different thing that's been created over time. But no one has probably sat down to think that, okay, we create this mission or board or committee to take care of that situation. Okay. And the HRC used to do that. So how does that affect us? So I think as a person of color that lives in Boulder, nobody will come out and talk for me. If I experience discrimination or racism, whatever it is, if I don't talk about it, nobody would even care, because it happens to me, it doesn't happen to anybody else. So my goal was to just tell you all as new members that, okay, I've been here for 4 years almost, I think, or more. When I first joined the HRC, the last piece of can I call it legislation, or what do you call that? Or things that worked in, it was, I think, 3 or 4 years before me. And that was to promote the universal bathroom in Boulder. Since then, I've been here, we have not done anything. The last thing we were supposed to work on, me and another member that is not part of the HRC anymore, we work on it really hard for like probably over, I will say 60 hours. It was about the homeless and housing. To the city council, pretty much. I think there was a guy, I don't know if he still works there. I don't remember his name. I don't want to say his name too, but he was like part of something. He kind of really gave us, and I'm direct, like I said, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, the F word with what we found out. So I felt really disrespected by it. And I did send him an email about that because, I have 2 kids. I'm volunteering here. I can spend my time doing way better things. I have a business. I charge a lot. If I spend 60 hours at my business, that's a lot of money. But when you put that time, that energy, that, I will say, focus on something to change, and somebody grab your work and pretty much just rip it and throw it in the trash, I don't think that's fair. So I don't know how we can make it better. I don't know how, but my understanding of it is that a lot of the work we used to do has been redirected. And I'm not going to say, like, a few people that I talked with said, maybe the goal of the city is to dismiss the HRC. I don't know. I can say that. He's a lawyer. He probably can tell us more about it since he's a city lawyer. Or how he can redirect us to understand, okay, how we can still be a body and still have a city, even though we may not be having the same force or push that we used to help the city with. Because right now, I think if you look at it, since the HRC have been created, there are about 11 more commissions and other committees that created that takes works away from us, but nobody ever talk about it. You join, I join, and then we have meetings after meetings, and we never accomplish anything. So my thing is like, okay, as a body, tonight is probably the time. How do we focus on making us a commission that does what the ordinance tell us to do? And what I'm going to say, it's not going to be like part of a situation where I'm creating conflict. I've talked to an old city manager that was the city manager probably for the longest time, 15 years. And I talked to a few people that were part of the HRCs in the 90s. It's like right now, even the process of the work has changed. In the past, the HRC used to communicate to city council, but now we have to go to a staff. And sometimes the problem with it is like the communication doesn't go the way you want because staff has to work on it to make it what they want to make city council happy. So I think changes has to be made the right way. And if we are following the ordinance, I think we have to follow it. If we don't have to follow it, there has to be, if there have to be some changes, we have to make it the right way. But that's pretty much what I want to say. Thank you. There we go. Okay. Can I add one more thing? Yep, absolutely. Sorry, I forget about one more thing. I don't write it down, but sorry. One more thing I wanted to add is this side down. Like I said, when I first joined the HRC, the process, it's not too long, it's 4 years ago, it was different. You walk in and then they have a meeting to welcome you. And at that meeting, you have the city lawyer. You have the city council, 3 members of city council. And when you get in, the meeting was about an hour and a half. And they tell you, you go through your ordinance and stuff like that, and what you are allowed to do and not allowed to do. So one thing I want to say is that still, I still don't know where my the right starts or ending, or when my power starts or ending in the interest. And I don't know if you guys know it, but I've read a lot, talked to a lot of people and see, but still it's a mystery. So the other part of it was when you get in, like let's say before you join the HRC, if you read what they put out for you to join, it tells you, oh yeah, you will be working with city council, you will be working with everything. But I have to tell you, after 4 years being here, I met with 2 city council, that wasn't my. City council never asked us to do anything, and I think we have asked to do this, they refuse. So I'm not saying we're dead commissions. But at the same time, I feel like, okay, how do we us like now as a new generation change that? So it's something to think about.
Right. Thank you, JH. So what I'm going to jump into here is kind of like the big picture on housing and human services, where we are housed, for lack of a better term, into the commission that is formed by you all. And then after that, Roberta is going to go through a discussion on the ordinance, as well as specifically the commission's role in enforcing the ordinance, so we can hopefully give you some clarity on the commission's role, potentially touch on some of the things that JH just mentioned there, and then also answer questions that you might have. So if you have questions during my part here, feel free to just raise your hand or jump right in. Would love for it to be sort of free flowing there, so let me know. So this is, yeah, just a quick intro to Housing and Human Services. Our mission statement is all Boulder community members deserve to thrive. Housing and Human Services provides resources, community connections, so everyone can experience Boulder as a just, inclusive, and equitable community. Our department goals are affordability and inclusivity, and how we work towards those goals are through direct services such as eviction prevention, family resource schools, which are teams that we have embedded in BVSD schools within the city to provide supports to families, older adult services. You may know our senior centers, a number of other services I won't go into necessarily, as well as investments in the community, such as nonprofit agencies that are serving the community, community activities or initiatives with some significant community impact, such as homelessness and affordable inclusive housing. So within Housing and Human Services, we have you all, the Human Rights Commission. And so the commission was created in the late 1960s, written into the Boulder Revised Codes 2-3-6 that seated 5 community members reflecting the various social, economic, ethnic, racial, and religious segments of the city, with the goal of fostering mutual respect and understanding, and serving as a vehicle for suggestions on city policies, social problems, advising and assisting the city government in relating human and social services to the needs of the city residents. Some examples of previous work that the commission has done sort of from its inception up to fairly recent times has included passing amendments to the Human Rights Ordinance, which Roberto will speak on a little bit here. Compiling reports on specific Boulder populations, supporting community events to promote awareness of human rights issues within the city. And then the quasi-judicial role, which again, Roberto's gonna go through as well. The commission is staffed through Housing and Human Services, through the Housing and Human Services Department, with guidance from the city attorney's office, which Roberto is a representative of. Questions on those two things?
Going off of what JH was talking about in terms of the evolution of the commission, can you speak more to the relationship between city council, city staff, and Human Relations Commission now?
I'm gonna punt that one over to Elizabeth, who can speak a little more eloquently about that.
So as written in the code descriptions of your work, and the city council process that it engages with all boards and commissions, of which citywide there are more than 30. I forget the exact number, but there's a lot. The work of a border commission can come across in several different ways. At the base level, when a city council asks a commission to take on a specific issue or topic and to help advise staff or council on that issue. There are also scenarios where city staff from our department, but also from other departments, may reach out to a board or commission and ask for your help providing direct guidance as HRC members about that topic. Sometimes to participate with other boards and commissions on a particular set of topics or issues to affect decisions. And then in some cases, and this is actually happening right now, to help provide input to city staff and consultants about the city's board and commission process. So that's something, some of the issues that JH brought up are issues that other boards and commissions have been bringing up as well for a while, right? It's not a unique issue to this particular commission, and that staff have observed as well. And so right now the city is in maybe year 2, I believe, of a very detailed, comprehensive assessment of all of its boards and commissions and how they may be able to work better. Because that at its core, the function of your role is to help really make a more democratic process, right? So help really serve as those liaisons with community members and advise on a wide range of city decisions. So that can happen in many different ways. Annually, the commissioners or boards and commissions tend to provide letters to city council to inform their retreats when they're trying to think about what their priorities are for the upcoming year. Sometimes that happens on a regular basis and sometimes it doesn't, because city council doesn't always start from scratch every year, right? There are topics that they choose to prioritize that will take several years to address. And so there have been some changes, and that's a little bit flexible or fluid based on when they really invite that to come from boards and commissions. But, you know, the commissioners can and board members reach out to city council as a body when you want, right? There's nothing prohibiting that. Most recently, it was, I think, back in April, and you three will help maybe remember, maybe March or April, when you most recently sent a communication to city council. And that was when Christine was still on the commission, if you remember that. And it was raising up some of the issues that GH described. So that can always happen, but city council doesn't always reach out directly to boards and commissions every year and say, hey, we want you to advise us or provide guidance on this, and this. Sometimes that comes from city staff, like the minimum wage discussion most recently, and there have been others as well. So hopefully that answers your question, but okay. Great.
También, para acercarse al Consejo Municipal, hemos, tenido reuniones. Hemos tenido reuniones donde a veces hay personal del Consejo Municipal y uno como comisionado puede dar su opinión en ese tipo de reuniones. Como yo estuve en la reunión de del salario mínimo y ahí hubo dos personas del Consejo Municipal y escucharon lo que yo tuve que decir acerca de lo del salario mínimo, ¿verdad? Entonces, también hay que acudir nosotros a veces a las reuniones que nos invitan.
Thank you. Moving along, I'm going to pass it off to Roberto. If you want, I can drive.
Yes, please.
Okay.
The ordinance that gives you the power to do what you do contemplates 3 general types of discrimination.
discrimination in housing, whether that's in rentals, sales, employment discrimination, and that could be in hiring practices. That could be in employment conditions. It could be in wage theft. These are all the types of claims that we've reviewed. And then the final one is public accommodation. And before we go any further, I'm going to share two very personal stories. Are any of you familiar with the Larimer Square area of Denver? There was a coffee shop called The Market. It's there for decades. And there was a group of us every Friday morning at 7 a.m. They would get together, a group of professionals. At that time, I was the chief prosecutor for the entire United States Air Force. One of the other members that was there was the U.S. attorney for the District of Colorado under President Obama. We had a Colorado Court of Appeals judge, a federal district court judge, so professionals. And we would gather every Friday morning, 7 a.m. to practice our Spanish. It was wonderful. And the gentleman who worked behind the counter, Ernie, after a while, he saw what we were doing and he wanted to practice his Spanish. And one day I walk in and he sees me, and there's a guy, another customer to the side. And I walk in and Ernie sees me and he says, "Buenos días, Roberto." Buenos días. He says, "¿Quieres una taza de café?" Sí, me encantaría. And this guy who's standing on the side, I'm noticing him. And he's getting angrier and angrier as we continue our conversation. He's not an employee. And he tells Ernie, "Do not serve this wet mess." And he looks at me and he says, "You are in America now. You need to learn English." I have a bachelor's degree, a master's, a doctorate. I have a postdoc. And again, I am the chief prosecutor for the entire United States Air Force. So we're going to pause right there. Think about that in terms of public accommodation. Ernie did, by the way, give me a credit. Have any of you heard of a town called Bordentown, New Jersey?
What?
Bordentown, New Jersey. If you have a chance, Google it. Google Bordentown, New Jersey races. It has a history. Just this most recent, just a couple years ago, their chief of police was arrested for violations of civil rights, of racist activity. Anyway, at this point, I am a special prosecutor for the Air Force. I have been sent to New Jersey to go try a case. And I tried the case, it's over, it's a Friday afternoon, and I drive to this town that I had never heard of, but I heard had good restaurants. And I go to this Italian restaurant and I have a great meal. But it was too much, and I got this Go plate, and I'm walking to my rental car. And as I'm getting to my rental car, I see this ice cream shop. This is homemade ice cream. And so I put my food away and I go and I walk in, and as I'm walking in, There are two ladies also walking. One coming straight at me, one crossing the street. I open the door, they walk in, I walk in. And the ice cream shop is to the left. There's also a deli and it's kind of like a convenience store. And myself and one of the other young ladies walk up to the ice cream area. The other one goes to the top. And I said, that's ice cream. And this lady looks at me shocked. And she says, we're closed. And I'm looking around and there are people. And so I don't move and she decides to help the lady standing next to me. And when I don't leave, she says, I'm 10 seconds away from calling the police. And it's very clear that I do not look like anybody else. And the lady that was getting ice cream, I thought was gonna say something, and she did. She looks at me and says, "Get out." And so anyway, so those two things, kind of the backdrop of public accommodation. So our ordinance, I want you to imagine those two same scenarios happen here in both. Before we get any further, reading this, the prohibitions, do any of you think that either one of those two is a violation of our ordinance? Or both of them, or neither? What do you guys think? Yes.
I would say the second one is definitely a violation because that's somebody who's offering you a service. It would be harder for me to predict whether the first one is. Yeah, just the second one, definitely. And I'm unsure about the first one.
Does anybody agree that the first one, maybe not? Does anybody want to be heard on that?
I'll make it clear. I think it's a personal decision of how you feel in that moment. You said you have been going there for how long? For many months. The guy knows you. So if he decided to do that, either there was some kind of prejudice before, something that happened. Somebody knows you or something happened with them, or I would say, yes, it is violating the ordinance because you come there all the time. They know you. The guy still serve you, like you say, that's your choice to stay. But you had another choice. Okay, again, the other choice you had was, okay, I could definitely make a complaint. And follow up on it. That was your choice. Nobody will make you do what it's like. I don't think it's up to us. I think it's up to you to tell us, how did you feel back then? If you felt violated, because these are mostly, I feel like they're personal life experience. Like you walk in the door. I will give you an example. I walk in a restaurant here one time with a friend. My friend walked in, the guy who was at the door didn't say anything. Nothing. I walk in, he said, "How can I help you?" Be honest with you, I was offended by it. Before I said anything, my friend said, "Why didn't you ask me?" So yeah, I don't know if that makes sense to you.
No,
I was in front of me, he didn't ask, I just walked right behind it and we were together. So is that a violation? Yes, for me it is.
Can I go back to you? Why is that first scenario more problematic? And you're onto something based on the way that this is written.
Yeah, because it seems that this is saying that you can't be discriminated for public accommodation, which means you still got your coffee served. Like the business did not discriminate. You still had your friend Ernie, and that even outside of this, you can still like hateful things can still be said to you.
Right, it was not the employee of the business, it was not a representative of the business that treated me that. So let's go. with this. Okay, so let's go to that, the second scenario. The complaint has to be filed within the statute of limitations, within a certain amount of time. If it's a housing issue, it's 1 year. An employment issue, half a year. This situation would be 60 days. So within 60 days, I would have had to file this complaint.
Sorry to clarify, the first one or the second?
Second. This is what our ordinance says has to be in there. I did not get the name of the lady behind the counter, but I could say it was, and I know this for a fact, it was 5:50 p.m. On a Friday, and she was the one working behind the counter. I provide what I'm alleging the facts are, the date, and what occurred. Okay, so I file that. It goes to Christopher. He looks it over, he makes sure that everything in there that is required under the ordinance is in there, it's proper, has all the information. Then he is required to send it to that ice cream shop. Which shop is it? The ice cream shop, the second scenario. And before he gets into the investigative stage, tries to see if there's something that he can do. Maybe get both sides together if the ice cream shop. If the ice cream shop is willing to do that, have everybody sit down, maybe go through a mediation process. That's the first step, is what our ordinance says, to try to work it out informally. However, let's go to the next one. Let's say it's a situation where one of two things happen.
Yo tengo una pregunta. En este caso, tú eras legal, pero si hubiera sido una persona ilegal, puede también meter la queja.
So, does the identity of the victim matter? It does not. If you are here undocumented and you are working in whatever capacity, you're working for cash under the table, it does not matter. Because when somebody withholds money from you for a service that you provided, a legal service that you provided, that is that. That is wage theft. And the law does not care who you are or what your status is. Does that make sense?
Tengo otra pregunta. Cuando tú vas a poner la queja, en este caso con Cristian, él puede preguntarte tu estatus. ¿Es legal eso?
I have yet to see a claim where that would be a relevant question. So I cannot imagine a situation where Christian asking a claimant that question would even be relevant. ¿Algo más? So going back to the situation, Christian calls the ice cream shop and they say, we're not gonna work with you, go to hell. Happens. So Christian does not have to go through that mediation process if he does not believe it will be useful. Yes.
Are there times when people who are discriminated against don't want to go through mediation and want a full investigation instead?
Sure, if somebody tells Christian, look, there is, you're just gonna be wasting your time. Can you just please do the investigation? That's certainly a valid.
If I can add to that, in the complaint form that someone is filling out online, it asks if they're willing to mediate. Yes, no. And that's the information that I use.
Now, Christian becomes an investigator. And he has to determine whether there is probable cause that is sufficient basis to believe that the discrimination occurred. And he'll interview witnesses, he'll go to the scene, he'll maybe re-interview the complainant. He's gonna do a lot of things to try to get at, did this happen? If it happened, is there an explanation? If there isn't, did this violate our ordinance? If it did, then Christian's going to try to eliminate this violation by an agreement. Once he makes his findings, these are my findings of fact, these are my conclusions of law. I find on behalf of the city of Boulder that the ice cream shop violated this ordinance. Then an agreement is signed. This is how we're gonna run it. This person behind the counter is now going to take some classes, or as it turns out, we ended up firing her, whatever it is. But that is the process.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So. Both people need to sign a sworn sworn.
Affidavit.
Affidavit?
No.
Why not?
Because that's not the way the ordinance is written.
Okay.
And here's why. So you and I, right?
Mhm.
Right, correct, okay. Let's say that he fills out a statement. Signs it. Sworn statement. And it's.
If he just feel it, it doesn't take sworn. If he just feel it, right? If he just feel it, it's not a sworn statement.
I'm saying I fill it out and I sign it.
Yeah, so in this scenario it is a sworn statement. Can I accept it?
Yeah, I mean,
And that certainly provides some weight. He is signing this under the penalty of perjury. And there's something. To it. But let's give another scenario. He and I sit down, hi, I'm Bill Aaron. And I'm talking to Aaron. And I'm asking Aaron questions. And every time I ask him a question, he looks down, he looks away. He doesn't look at me. And he's evasive. And so a lot of times, this could be a lot more useful to me to gauge somebody's credibility than a sworn statement. Is one more important than the other? Not necessarily. They're just different. But the ordinance, to answer your question, does not require it.
So, that means, can determine, for example, if Aaron is lying to you.
I can gauge credibility. Enunciation. Demeanor. Redirection of the conversation. Nervousness.
I can tell you that we disagree on that.
Okay, that's fair.
No, understand. I'm gonna be straight with you. Okay. I think the liars are good here. They're well good. And my problem with what you just said is that, and I'm not telling you you're not smart, that's not what I'm saying, I wanna make sure I say it clear. I've had a few conversations with, a few here, but I used to think that were quotable, you know? You talk to them, you see them driving a BMW, they tell you stories, they look at you straight on the eyes. They ask you to borrow money. And you loan it to them. And next thing you know, it's like, oh, the BMW was borrowed. The money you loaned to them was not for disease. It was for drugs. So I don't see any how you can just look at someone. Let's put it clear, you know, let's be honest with each other. That's why we have, I think, a process. Like, it's not always 100. He doesn't. It doesn't work 100%. I think that's why, you know, there is a statute in the justice system. It's a woman with a, how do you call that? Like a blindfold. And that's why I think evidence counts. If you come to Aaron, you just look at Aaron and, you know, you don't know Aaron. And then you come to Ficker and you tell Ficker, all right, you know, I'm talking to you. You don't look at me in the eye. Some people are shy. Some people have a different demeanor. And you make Ficker sign a paper and you just look at Aaron because Aaron is chill. And then understand, it's the reality. So I think the balance as a judge, a lawyer, and someone who is part of the, you know, a system that I respect a lot, and I know it's a process here, it's different than like the Code Civil, where you go, we argue what it is instead of laying evidence for each other. So if you just talk to Christian, Ficker sign a paper, there's nothing Ficker can do to counter your word won't count on it. It's a translation of what he said to you, not what he said you written out, or what you agree for him to sign. I don't know if my English is good enough to explain.
Totally understand. I'll give you an example. Our system of justice, criminal justice, civil justice, where we ask a group of citizens to sit as jurors. They listen to testimony. They watch witnesses. They do not get a transcript of everything that was said. They take notes on their own. And then they get an instruction from the judge that says, you are the sole determiners of the facts. You are to determine the facts based on the credibility of the witnesses. You may believe all of their statements, none of their statements, some of their statements. Things you are to consider are demeanor, what they have to gain or lose, which side called the witness. So our country has a history of that. Is that why the ordinance is written that way? I don't know. But the ordinance does not require evidence gathering by sworn written statements. So. I filed a complaint. Christian tried to mediate it. It didn't work. Christian did his investigation. He found there was no discrimination against him. So he dismisses the complaint on behalf of the city. I am not satisfied. So now I get to request a hearing in front of all of you. So let's go to this hearing. This is your quasi judicial function. You all sit as judges. He holds a hearing to determine whether he got it right. You go ahead. You have the authority to swear people in, to issue subpoenas that people do not want to show up. You can order them to show up. You can rule on evidence, rule on discovery. And then you have the power to issue final orders. You follow the civil rules. Then I can get it. Is that you follow the civil rules of evidence, procedure, although not all of them. Hearsay may be considered. It's one of those that you can consider. And you determine things just like in a civil hearing by a preponderance of the evidence. Some people say that's like 51%. Some people say more likely than not. But that would be your decision. Once you make your decision, that is the final decision on the matter at the municipal level. If you were to rule against me, my only recourse is to file a lawsuit against you as a city, in a civil district court here in Boulder County, under 106A.
May I ask one?
Of course.
Okay. So, in a case of an appeal, right, you use that word probably 4 times since after you said that, the word of evidence, right? Let's say I signed something, Aaron did it.
Okay.
Right? We're in front of all of us. What evidence do I have about Aaron in front of all of us? Where is that evidence going to come from?
Testimony. So for example, if the board wants to hear from Aaron, they say you are to appear at 6 p.m. at this location, and we will take testimony from you. You can consider the written document that's sworn, or you can order it to show up. Other questions? That's it. That's your rule. Oh, yes.
I wonder, Roberto, if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit, if this were to happen, what kind of guidance do staff provide the HRC members in that we're not, like a jury, right? Like not legal experts, but can you just share a little bit about, and just to say, I don't even remember, we'd have to research the last time the HRC served in this role. It certainly has happened at some point. It's not common, but just curious since we're kind of talking about.
I also represent the liquor board. And we do these every month. Every month. There are hearings that follow the quasi judicial process. When there is an allegation that a bar sold to an underage individual. By way of example. Staff will do all your admin work. Hey, we need a subpoena. We need you to send out notices. We need you to prepare X to get us ready for this. Find us a space, find us all of these things. That's that part of staff. Me, you determine, we have these legal questions, like what elements, what is the law? What are we supposed to apply? I provide you all of this. Then you decide in what order you want to call witnesses. Either you or a member of the staff will swear in each witness. You swear under the penalty of perjury of the statements you're about to make. And then you get to ask them questions if they are represented by an attorney. The attorney will do some questioning, but normally you will also have questions that you want to ask. You get stuck, you ask us questions. What's the next step? Whatever it is that's on your mind, you ask us, we respond. So that is the role of staff.
I have one last question.
Yes.
As a lawyer, right? Say I come to you. I say somebody slapped me in the street. And I say to you that, okay, I'm crying. Would you believe my word on it, or would you check to see if there's camera out there? Check my face. Would you just believe my words on it because I'm crying?
So you are the victim of an assault. You come to me as a lawyer?
Yeah, to represent me to file some kind of lawsuit. All right,
In that situation, I would use your word and gather any evidence that I can.
see that?
Yeah.
So that's why I feel like it's important to have evidences. When someone says something, it's like, let's say I say to you, I got slapped. You don't have any evidence out there. You will trick the camera, I do believe, because your license is on the line. As a lawyer, you can lie. So you agree with me on that. Well, that's where I'm telling you, when you tell me, oh, me, I found something. You go talk to Christian. I just standing there having a beer. And I don't know how to explain it to you. Believing someone won't know dates for me, that's the worst. I have so many people working my door. You shake their hands. Okay? You help them. And I'm not gonna say they pay full price. They started telling you stories. My kids are sick. My wife is at the hospital. My boyfriend just got out of jail. We need a car. And you do $2,000 for work. And they said, oh, you know what, I have $300. I'll pay you every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, $300. You call. In fact, the first thing they say, I don't know if that ever happened to you. To me, they will say, you're harassing me. So my whole thing about it is just, I feel like as a lawyer, that's why I ask you this question. And evidence and witness statement matters. And I think
Totally fair.
that's the only thing you can hold against someone. You just said it earlier. You say hearsay can be considered. You remember that?
Mhm.
It's hearsay. But if there is no facts, your words, okay? And understand, when I do something and I know what happens, it's okay if I take 2 minutes to tell a story. No, I'm just gonna explain it.
So yes, before you do that, let me say one thing. Let me say one thing. This is the beauty of having 5 of you. You want to see something great. Maybe you want to look at somebody in the eyes. Maybe you will not consider hearsay. Maybe you're somewhere in the middle. And that's why all of you have a collective voice and it works. Go ahead.
I don't know, like, okay. I'm gonna tell you a quick story. In 2014, I was driving my car on board. No issue. I didn't know somebody was following me. I didn't know somebody was trying to play some game against me. I stop at a stoplight. Next thing I know is somebody comes to my door and they say, "Give me your driver's license." Understand? Somebody not in the car uniform. The first thing I say is "fuck you." I did. The next thing I know, a gun was on my head. I handed him my wallet. He said to me, "Make a left turn." I want you to hear that. He said to me, "Make a left turn and pull the fuck over." By the time I make the left turn, I see a cop car coming. I want you to understand what I'm gonna say to you, so that will make really more sense. Cop car coming, I park, the cop parked behind me, he parked behind the cop car. The cop asked me, "What happened?" I said, "Just ask him. He has my wallet, he has everything he needs." The cop came, went and talked to him and came back and talked to me. Do you know they deleted the audio? I want you to hear me. They deleted the audio and the cop camera. My word versus his word didn't get me anywhere. It ended up not getting me anywhere. I don't know if that make any sense to you. So my whole thing with you is, I don't think we should work that way. My road, understand, versus his roads, because there was no audio and the video, I couldn't get anywhere. You go to court with him, you know, they're in the city. The guy said he didn't pull a gun on my head. We tried a camera. There was no camera on Balmo and in Foothills. That camera is there only if there's a lot of traffic. And they'll save the videos. We went all the way down to 47 to get a video. You can see where he got out of his car to come to my car, but there was no audio. We couldn't see the gun because he stayed next to my door. So my thing is that that's one thing we should consider. The only thing you can hold against somebody is a written statement, not translation from me to her. Understand, English is not my first language. I could say something, she translate it differently. And people are good at lying here, I'm telling you. Well, I've seen it. And they're arrogant when they're lying. You're talking about looking at you in the eyes? I have guys that lies to me about the thing is right in my head. In fact, they want to fight me because of it. So, and I think in that case, I hope next time we have any case here, we have written statement from both parties, not one. Because that's the only way we can hold the weight. You know, that's why we have a balance in the justice, how do you call it, like a scale. I can tell you anything. Looking at you straight on your eye, you don't know me. You never met me. In fact, if I know you're coming, I'll be prepared to tell you anything you want to hear. It is. It's a, but if there is evidence or my word against your word, there is a way to at least, you know, see something. All be fair. All be fair. This concludes my portion, I think. Yep. Yeah.
We're gonna take a quick 5.
You'll want a quick break?
Carlos, you got your hand up?
Son las 8 de la noche, entonces yo quería preguntar, yo estoy en la totalidad de quedarme más tiempo, pero quiero saber los demás si pueden quedarse para terminar nuestra presentación.
I'm fine staying.
We'll let JH is just calling his children real quick, so if anybody does need to use the restroom, maybe just take a moment and then we'll continue. Are you good, Christian?
Yep.
How much longer do we have?
About
I can,
15-20 minutes.
yeah, I can rip through.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Oh, sure. Well, you know, is it possible, Roberta can give us a little bit about, like what I talk about, how do we proceed? You probably, I know you've been here only 6 months. Is that correct? Yeah. Cause I remember when you came in. The prayer of it is, it's not to say, I think I can see a lot going on. And I feel like. Again, as I say, I don't a lot of homework. I don't know. I'm a lawyer, you can help us find. Situation, where you drive, it's like, it's a dead body, and I'm not gonna get about it over, you know, it's a. Like I said,
Quick clarification, because when we're kind of walking around, then it's, the interpreters can't interpret, so we're gonna. Yeah. Or we'll take just well, why don't we just take a couple of minutes so people can kind of get what they need and then we'll start again.
how's it going?
That works.
Where's tonight's food from?
Modern Market.
Tonight's food.
Modern
Market.
Potatoes, right?
Everything was amazing.
Heard that. Thanks, Tiffany.
Yeah. Yeah, like 15 minutes, the work plan thing is very short. Oh, right, yeah.
In the 17th, so Adams and.
You all don't eat it, you're gonna have to take it home, so.
Going little bit by little bit at that challenge. It's a yummy problem.
You picked the right seat, Aaron.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that.
I said you picked the right seat.
Uh-huh.
You can sneak right past Someone's done this before.
You know, so back in. 14, when we started doing a lot of the license.
Oh, it was good. But it was early. When we started the party, no rain.
I had an event. And so I hear.
Yeah.
Sure, how are the changes in all the real estate regulations?
Oh my God, it's gonna be hectic. I think it just happened this week, so it hasn't really affected us much yet, but
So
I have no clue what's gonna happen. Very interesting. It'll be very interesting, Elizabeth. I have no clue. Right now, it's very, very interesting. It's kind of nerve-wracking. I bet. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. No, thank you. I know it's really insane, but we'll just have to see how everything plays out. Yeah.
Are interest rates going down good for you?
Interest rates are falling, but what Elizabeth is talking about is there was a new law that just went into effect that says that realtors, the way we get paid is through commission, and the seller often paid for both buyer and seller commission. But now they're saying that buyers are responsible for their own commissions. So buyers would have to pay, which is going to be very tough. Some buyers are having a hard time getting into the market, let alone trying to pay their agent. And so it's very interesting being a
Thank you, everybody, for reminding me of the different things that I need to do. Also, this is my first time doing this type of thing, so I appreciate the reminders to record, stop recording, mute, unmute, all that stuff. So I appreciate you. What I am going to do once this changes, here we go, is run through the data that I have available on claims that my office has received. And so the info that I have readily available goes back to, yes, to 2021, just making sure I didn't skip ahead. And so I'm gonna give you some just bird's eye view. These are the claims that we've dealt with. This is what we're looking at and some of the distribution. Just a disclaimer here, our data tracking mechanism has not been the most perfect, and so you're going to see some drastic jumps that I'll talk about here in a couple minutes, and that has a lot to do with the work of my predecessor, Ingrid, who a lot of you worked with, and sort of really implementing and tidying up our practice here. So as you're seeing on the screen here, 2021, we had a total of 18 claims or inquiries, meaning not all of those 18 data points resulted in a formal claim that got mediated or investigated. The blue section here represents claims or inquiries related to housing. The yellow portion right here is employment related claims. Red right here would be a failure to pay wages or wage theft claim. And then green is going to be, oops, I flip-flopped that. Red is public accommodation. And then the green here is failure to pay wages claims. And so that's what we had. I don't have on the screen two that were not applicable. Those could be something like somebody calling from a different jurisdiction with questions on what the ordinance is or something like that. That doesn't fall into any of these categories. Moving into 2022, we have about 20 claims or inquiries. This year, interestingly, 2 were related to housing, 10 were employment, 8 were public accommodation. And then as far as I can tell, there was not a failure to pay wage or wage theft claim. So that is a much different distribution there. Moving into 2023, so last year, this is where you see a marked increase in claims. We went from 20 in 2022 to 63 in 2023. And that is an error on my part. It should say claims and inquiries. All of these are claims or inquiries. We saw 19 in housing, 17 in employment, 7 in public accommodation, 8 in failure to pay wages, and then a number that didn't fall into any of those categories, but wanted to just shout them out there. We had 9 where there was unclear what it was the caller was reaching out about, and many times there was not follow-up or like conversation around that. It was like we get a voicemail or I get an email, something like that. Follow up for more information, no response. Accessibility and migrant support are also not pictured. So just interesting to point out there. And I think also, and Elizabeth might be able to speak a little bit to this, a reflection of the outreach work that I'll jump into in the next slide. That was done by my predecessor in the community level work and trust that she had in the community, and I hope to continue here. Here's a look at this year to date. So up until about mid-August, we have about 28 total claims, 8 in housing, 8 in employment, 5 in public accommodation, and 4 failure to pay wages claims. This is tracking a little bit behind last year's claims. Up to this point, we had about 38, so a little bit behind, which I find interesting and would love to hear your thoughts on how we might reach out to the community to at least make folks aware of the ordinance here and encourage folks who think or believe that they have experienced some type of violation of the ordinance to reach out. But just want to point out here sort of where we're at today. Carlos, did I see your hand go up?
Si yo quisiera ver la manera de llegar con esta ordenanza, principalmente a la comunidad latina, que son los que creen o están temerosos de poner una queja. ¿Sí? Entonces, en este caso, yo creo que sería mi labor trabajar y llegar a este tipo de personas, a esta comunidad.
And I am hoping that we can work sort of hand in hand on that. Having trusted members of the community, like yourself, like each of the commissioners here, as well as just people who are known and can be sort of eyes and ears in the community, is always going to be better, a better way of getting in touch with somebody and sharing information than me with a Housing and Human Services lanyard and business cards and that kind of thing, as a representative of the government, for the exact reason that you're talking about, Carlos. And so that is actually a terrific segue into my last 2 pieces here. This is our current method of outreach into the community. And so we've done, and I would do this in my previous role in partnership with Ingrid, presentations to our community partners, nonprofits, public-facing government agencies, offices that had contact with the general public to make them aware of our services and how to connect with us. We also attend like mobile home community block parties at each of the mobile home communities, typically each summer. Although this summer was a different situation. On our communications department, I work closely with to put out publications from the city on issues, on events that are related to human rights issues. So a recent one, for example, that we did or that we're working on would be Labor Rights Week, which is coming up at the end of the month, reaching into September. And last but not least, Carlos, as you were mentioning there, relationship and word of mouth. And so relationship building with the community, and that is really where I am interested in focusing some effort on, but I want to also hear from you. So I have a couple questions that we can go through briefly, but also in the interest of time, you're welcome to come back to this conversation later on at a different meeting. So if anybody has any thoughts that they would like to share right now, go for it. And if not, we can continue this conversation. Would just like to know from you what is missing from our current outreach approach, and what materials or information would be helpful to you as a commissioner to get the word out about human rights ordinance and the claim process.
Have one thing really quickly, Christian, so really what Christian is describing here, I just wanted to share is true for our whole Housing and Human Services Department. And that is that one of our strategic outcomes or changes that we want to continue to make in our community are to make sure that everyone who is eligible for and can receive a service or a benefit that will help them to live a better life. A more just, equitable, inclusive community. We want to make sure that they do receive that, right? So it's not just enough to say this program exists and just see who walks through the door. But to really do whatever we can to make sure that everybody is aware and can utilize the process. So I just wanted to share that is true for us, and it is true for the city as a whole, whether it's food or academic support or behavioral health services or, help with preventing someone's eviction. And it's also true for this process. So that's just one of our strategic goals. And part of how we measure that is by saying, what activities are we doing to get out there and tell people about it? And, to have information back from folks like yourselves, community members to say, oh, I didn't even know that was a thing. Now I'm glad I know. Now I understand. Or I'm hearing that, maybe I don't have to be afraid, right? I know I can reach out to someone and get my questions answered. So that's very difficult to measure over time, but those are some of the things that we try to do. So your input on, on these questions is really helpful to us in accomplishing that. Thanks.
I think I want to add one thing here, which is, I think it's good to do that. But at the same time, I feel like that fall back to the same thing I started to talk about from the beginning. What is our mission? How do you tell people to come in? And when you realize you have no power, you have no strategy, you have no structure. You come, you tell somebody, oh, I can help. They come in and you say, oh, no, it's not us, it's somewhere else. How do we fix that first? To know, okay, everybody, here's where, it's like putting it in there about, and if we go with the ordinance right now, that I will say, to be clear, 26%, 27 to 30% of it doesn't apply to us anymore. So my thing is, outreach to people, but you can't be selling a lie or something that's not there as well. I know part of it is there, I understand, but what about the rest? How do you sell somebody a product? It's like, how would I put it to you? It's like, you go to Walmart, they sell you a tire, they tell you, I would take that example because I'm a mechanic. They sell you a tire, they say that go 40,000 miles. You drive to Florida and back, that's roughly 10,000 miles, and you come back, they said, oh no, it's not on the warranty because, it still has some thread on it. Until it's on the wire, there's nothing you can do. So my thing is like, I understand to reach people. I sometimes want to help certain people, but my thing is, it's like, okay, how can you do that while us? Like I said, over the past, 7 years, we have not accomplished anything. Zero. We have meeting almost every month, but those meetings do not get us nowhere. So I understand And Ingrid put a
Mhm.
plan, but still, if you look at the plan, what have we done with it? Nothing. Do we know any of us is working on any piece of material to make anybody's life better here? Probably personally, but not as a group. If somebody comes to him, he can contact me, he can contact Victor, he can contact you, you know? But at the end of the day, I don't think any of us has an understanding of, as a body, what we're selling. And I hope, you know, in the few months that I have left, this is the same because I might leave. You know? But you guys will be the ones that, I'm probably the one with the most knowledge, we'll talk to a lot of people, but in the end of the day, you know, how do you keep that body functioning when you reach out to people, they come, you know, and they realize, wow, what is that?
Mhm.
I thought you said you could help. Send him to, you know, I have to send you to one stop, and then one other stop send you to the other one. The other one send you to the other one, and you got to a point where you realize, okay, this person look at me, you know, they will think, well, you didn't even know what you were talking about. So my thing is, I understand we can reach out to people, we can do all of those things,
Mhm.
materials and information, but I think we need to redefine. And I'm not saying they should change the ordinance, but with all of the changes that I had made in the last 12 to 13 years,
Mhm.
we need to be consider that. I don't know if it's another retreat or if we need to talk to the, you know, city lawyer here and understand why, how do we fix that? How do we move forward? How do we're useful? How are we like gonna be, you know, like, I don't know. So anyway.
Mhm. I think that's valuable conversation to have, and I appreciate you for bringing that up. That is it for me. I'm gonna hand it over to,
Just a couple quick comments on that.
Yeah.
A couple of things, I mean, from this, so it's not a regular meeting, your next month meeting, which would be September, hard to believe. There are a couple of items, right, already kind of on the agenda from the conversation about human trafficking and a couple of other things that were talked about last month. If, for example, from this meeting, if you all, and you don't have to decide it right now, decide that you want to say, tell us more about the ordinance. Where is it? You know, what are you observing? Again, not going into personal cases around privacy issues, but what are some of the things that are working well? What is not working well? Are there other cities that are doing different things with an ordinance? Again, there aren't very many that have municipalities, cities that have an ordinance like this. So there's not always a ready case for that, and I'm looking at Roberto to just tell me where I'm wrong. But you as a commission could say, we want to look more into this area. Then, I mean, what we've shared before, and Ingrid and I have is, and you know, Christian shares this now as well. Roberto, our job as staff is to say, the next step would be to reach out to city council, to the city manager and say, here's what we would like to do. What do you think? And get that input, right? So that you have that communication that you desire. What we don't want to have happen is any board or commission or committee to be doing work that is not asked for and for which there's nobody ready to receive that. That's just frustrating for everybody. So we would want to prevent that from happening. But if there are issues that you want to talk about that are different, it's our role to say, well, there's, you know, this is within your mission, this is within your scope. You wouldn't start advising, say, we want to give advice on the regional transportation system, right? Like there's a different committee for that. But where is your role? And if it's right, if it's accurate, if it's within the scope, is there a city council who's interested in hearing from us on that? If there is, then we as staff kind of have the green light to say, yeah, you can help the commission work on that issue. So there are pathways forward for you to take on those initiatives. And, you know, we don't, you know, none of you can say, Christian, I want you to go research, you know, this issue. Roberto, go do this thing, right? That's where we have to have some agreement from city council, a directive, something that enables us to work with you and to help serve your purpose. But there are ways to do that. And so I just wanted to share that. You know, we try to provide guidance and support so that you can feel like you're having that positive impact and help that communication with city council and other staff.
So.
I think on that, yeah, I'm just curious to continue like learning this process of like better, because and I just wanted to drop this in before we finish the meeting. Because last meeting we talked about drafting up a letter to Genaria, and so I drafted that up. JH gave it a thumbs up, and Emily gave some really good feedback, and I've adapted. And so I guess my curiosity now is like, what do we do with that? Do we like say as a whole, like, yes, send that letter? I'm just curious kind of how this process works and how to engage in it.
Sure, so I think you can put that on the agenda for next month is the short answer. I'm trying to walk a line between a retreat and a business meeting right now, right? So, but generally speaking, once you all have agreement, then Christian and I can just help you. You can either say, here's where you can send that communication. Or if you prefer, you can give it to us and we can send the communication up. But that's generally kind of the next step.
Cool. So at
And
the
your
moment, we're
opportunity
waiting.
to talk about it
Yeah.
as a group is
Yeah.
at a business. meeting,
Great.
not-
Okay.
That
Understood.
kind of gets you away from the one by one,
Gotcha.
again, sunshine laws. So those are the kinds of things where if you all want to talk about that, any of you, it's communicating with your chair and your vice chair, getting it on the agenda. If there's something that requires information or preparation for other people, if you're like, we really need Roberto at that meeting, obviously we need to know that ahead of time so we can help make that happen, right? So that's where it's important for you all to communicate, you know, with each other, kind of one by one, reaching out to these two, and then when we set the agenda for the next meeting, that's kind of how that goes. So there's a little bit of a method to the madness, right? Of why we have to have that determined in advance. We have to let the media know and the community, what are you going to be talking about? So we can't make changes like right at the last minute. But if we know that, if there are ideas that you want to move forward, we're here to help you. We're here to help you do that.
Cool.
Is that helpful?
Yes.
Anything you would want to add to that in terms of process? Good question. Thank you. Okay. Is it me? Is that it? Oh yeah, work plan review. Okay. So speaking of this. So, last year, meaning 2002, 2003, when we had the retreat, in this same space, actually, if Carlos and JH and Fico will remember, we, were talking with the HRC members about how we can help you kind of track these ideas, like what are the topics, what are the issues that we're interested in pursuing. How do you as commissioners know month to month what community events you might want to go to, right? Because you don't have to spend all of your time, if you don't want to, kind of only engaging in these meeting spaces. Part of your role, if you want, is to get out into community and go to events with, you know, name badge on. and represent the HRC and listen to people and talk to people, that's another way, right, for you to be engaged as commissioners. And so we talked about, you know, and Ingrid put together a spreadsheet document where we're just kind of tracking what those issues are. Was there a next step? Who said they were going to do it? Obviously, every meeting we have minutes and very detailed notes that we send out in the packet, so you have that reminder. But we all know that sometimes, like, oh, where did I put those minutes? Who said they were going to do that? And just having a really kind of short document will help. So that's still there for you. So every month when you have your meetings, we provide a link to that, kind of send it out ahead of time. And we heard from Carlos and JH that it's sometimes difficult to get access to that document. Like, where's the link? Now I have to remember how to log in. There are challenges that we have in like sharing live documents. That's different than here's a copy and now we're going to change it. Here's another copy. Now we're going to change it. Here's another copy. So it is imperfect and it's a little bit clunky. So what we wanted to know from you is if there are just some other options for making that a document available to you that would be better for you. We are somewhat constrained by the technology that we have or that we can use as city staff. But if there are things that you would prefer that would make it easier for you to use this document, let us know. We can listen now and, you know, have some discussion with each other. Or again, if it's getting late and you want to think about it, we can, you know, you can put it on the agenda for another meeting. One thing that I do at work that I think is helpful is just linking it to every email. Think of this document we want to use as a group, just link it to every email. And that way I'm not like going back into my emails looking for them. That would help me a lot. I don't know if that would help some of the access issues with other members, but I have a lot of different documents. So yeah. And that would require using different technologies.
Yeah, I think if every time we get an email from Christian, it's got like 5 bits of useful information that are always relevant to us, definitely keeps it front of mind. And it's like one thing, and it's just a copy paste that's for you in every email.
Yeah.
Cool.
We can definitely try that. One of the, again, advantages of having that live document is that, like, very soon we'll be able to provide information in that document about Indigenous Peoples Day, for example. We're still kind of need to get information about some of those events in order to share back with you. And if we were providing a copy of the actual document, right, if you saw it today, it wouldn't have that information and you'd have to wait till next month to get it. That's another thing we could do is just send out like, here's another copy, you know. So what I'm seeing is that like, that's not as effective, but we can do that. Or if any of you at any time say, hey, can you just send the current version to me by email? We can just do that. It's really whatever works for you, we can do. So we'll try those 2 things. Anything else? Carlos, is there anything that would be helpful for you?
Yo creo también que podríamos, ustedes en la ciudad usan mucho Office.
Perdón. Sí, ustedes en la ciudad usan mucho Office, creo. Y que podamos descargarlo. Y nosotros lo teníamos guardado ahí también.
I think I understood that. You want to respond, Christian?
Yeah.
In terms of like actual program?
I believe that may work.
You're not in a microphone.
I got it.
Sorry.
Or say it in both.
I believe that would work. The challenge that we might get is if there's updates to the spreadsheet. When you download it, you download that copy at that point in time. And so if I go in a week, 2 weeks later to add something, you won't see it automatically on your copy there because it's just like a static Excel sheet. So that is something that could work for like a snapshot in time. You'll need a updated new copy, which I believe we would tackle through attaching them to emails moving forward. So yeah, I think it could work. Might encounter issues. So if you have issues with that, I'm just going to rely on your communication to let me know. Otherwise, I won't know there's an issue.
We're not changing that every day, and nor would you, right? So it wouldn't happen all the time, but we can try different things and truly just let us know. If it's not useful for you, you don't have to use it, right? But it's really mostly for your purposes. So just let us know. I think that's all we had. Any closing comments for you? I will share, we appreciate you all very much. We know that this is a lot of time in an evening, and